Right, I am so pleased. I'm going to steal this from you, Steve Nobel, because I'm so excited. I'm delighted to be here with my friend Steve Nobel. Steve, I mean, for those people who don't know you, can you just briefly tell them who you are? And then I want to talk about your wonderful new book, which I haven't read yet, but I've absorbed it from chatting to you, The Enlightenment of Work. I mean, tell us who you are in a nutshell.
Well, at the moment I'm an author. I've written 3 books. I'm writing the 4th. This is my 3rd book, Enlightenment of Work. My 4th book is called Big Transitions, which is, you know, this is a kind of follow-on. People in life go through transitions. It's a time of transition, so that's right about that. I'm a coach. I do personal and business, and I'm a co-director of Alternatives. Down the road, St James's Church, we host weekly talks and events. Mind, body, spirit, personal development, coaching, creativity.
Wonderful. That's a rich mix.
Yeah.
Listen, that's a real rich mix. And I'm keen to talk to you more about your story. I'm sure it will unfold. The book, Enlightenment of Work, lots of people, the time that we're doing this now, lots of people are going to soon be going back to work. It's summer now, people are going back to work in September. Some people are actually going to be starting work for the first time, actually, which is true.
Well, that's true, yes.
You know, tell us a little bit about what's this about?
Well, the Enlightenment of Work came out of my own kind of journey of work, which was a journey of suffering for quite a while. You know, I didn't fit, I didn't enjoy my work for the first 10 years. It was really terrible. I worked in banking. And I did it because I didn't know really what I wanted, and I adopted my family's ideas around work, which was security and stability and follow the money and all that. I worked in the city. Really, I mean, years later I realised that my values are creativity, freedom and spirituality. Now, if I'd have known that then, I would never have gone in banking. I had no idea.
Well, this is interesting, isn't it? Also, I think that your career is interesting because you started off in that banking environment. That's one kind of, I guess, let's just use the word extreme for better, you know, of one particular type of environment. Then you worked in the public sector, completely different kind of environment.
Mad, chaotic.
Well, it's interesting that you've had those experiences, those 2 different main, you know, the public sector, private sector. And it sounds as though both for you were suffering.
They were in different ways. I mean, now I went the kind of Buddhist middle way. I come to Alternatives, which is kind of a middle way. It was a very creative environment. One way I felt I could really excel, and it fitted who I am, my passions, my values, and it's a place where we can be totally creative and successful. You know, I found out because it's a company, we can create, and what do we want to do with this program, and what events do we want to do, and we just make it up and see what works, what doesn't work, and it's constant testing, constant having fun and enjoying. But some things might be successful, but we didn't enjoy it, so we go, we're not doing that again. We have that rare opportunity to do that. I don't want to do things I don't enjoy.
Right. And so then let's zoom into the book, because lots of people think the Enlightenment of Work, and as you said, the first section is the content: why suffer, transform the suffering, the reinvention of work, be yourself, work beyond belief, reclaim your time, be more resourceful, use your intuition, work and play. You know, lots of people, is it play or is it really hard work? Love your work, and bliss at work.
It's the whole scale, from suffering to bliss, all the way through.
So this first thing about suffering, let's zoom in that, because lots of people do feel is that, like you, it's really hard work. Maybe, okay, it's kind of what my skill set is, but it's really hard work and it's full on, and I'm just dowdy all the time and I feel exhausted all the time. Tell us a little bit about how does the book take somebody that is their experience? What's the invitation of the book for that kind of person where that's going on?
Well, I imagine that a large percentage of the world is in suffering around their work. They're not. I would imagine a very small percentage of people are doing what they absolutely love to do. So the book starts at the level of suffering. What is suffering? All the kind of physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. And most people get, well, physically suffering can be tension, stress, illness. Emotionally, it can just, you know, there are a lot of workplaces, you can't be angry, you can't be sad, you're just going to shut down, carry on, and that in itself is suffering.
Right, again, almost not be a human being, almost.
Yeah, be a robot.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah, terrible.
Yeah.
Or the other one, mentally, it could send these kind of thoughts around like, I'm powerless to shape my destiny, I have to do this horrible work, and all that's the sort of suffering. Spiritually, you know, most people don't realise it, spiritually, disconnecting from your true self is a source of suffering.
Right.
And most people would not know who their true self is.
Right. And okay, let's say I'm watching this interview, I'm struck by what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. I'm having a lot of suffering actually in my work, but I don't feel as though I've got a choice right now. I need to bring in the money, I've got a mortgage, everything's chaotic. You're talking about knowing who I am. I've got no idea who I am.
Yeah.
Then your next chapter is kind of transform your suffering.
Yeah.
So for somebody who is in that situation and stuck, they've been arrested by what we're saying, okay, yeah, that is suffering, that is very much me, but I'm trapped here and I haven't got a choice, and maybe if I had £1 million in the bank, I might do something else, or if I wasn't afraid of losing my job, I might see if I could change it.
Yeah.
So talk me through what happens from that chapter when somebody from that transform your suffering. What's that about?
Transform your suffering comes from 2 points of view. Psychological, which looks at something called the drama triangle, which is very well known in psychology. It's persecutor, rescuer, victim. And these plays go on in work. You know, the boss is persecuting me, another co-worker comes in, I'll support you, and that's the drama cycle starts up. People shift around that quite a lot, and suddenly the boss feels unsupported and feels a bit victimised, the workers don't. So you shift around the cycle, and it's the mindset of all these and how we can get off that wheel. That mindset also goes on in our mind. We victimise ourselves, we persecute ourselves, we try to rescue ourselves. You know, this kind of thinking goes on internally, externally.
And we see it all the time, don't we, in so much conflict with individuals or even restructure, even the whole kind of company level or board level, even all those kind of things can go on.
Even the level of I'm useless, I can't do more than this, is a form of like persecution, really. So it's pressing the pause button on that and finding ways of getting off that.
Right.
Because most people don't know, because it's like the conveyor belt, it just goes so fast you can't stop it.
Well, what's interesting is this next chapter you're talking about the reinvention of work.
Yeah.
Now, in your case, in all recognising all that, you realised you had to get out. And I think what's particularly striking to me about your particular story, I got a sense that you had to go on a kind of spiritual journey for yourself to discover who you were. And for like lots of people, this is very difficult at the time, and you've shared this with me before. I think you're married, you have kids, you just knew the work environment, all those things weren't working for your mortgage and all that kind of stuff. So you took the courage of taking the ultimate step of stepping away and trying to find out who you were and what did make sense to you.
Yeah. So I know that the challenges people have, you know, and one thing I'd say to people is, and this is the toughest question particularly men will face, is are you going to make your family your excuse for not doing the journey? Now that's the hardest thing, because most people would say, well, I love my family, and it's not about sacrificing the family, but it's ultimately, if you don't take the journey, your kids might look at you and go, you didn't really do what you wanted to do, Dad. You know, I look at my father, he spent his whole life doing this job, supporting us, but I looked at him and every day he looked like he's been battered.
Right, and also, and you're making a really powerful and important point, because what can happen, if one's just going through the motions in work and we're doing it and so on, that robotic kind of thing, then actually, even though it's doing that to provide the income from the family and so on, there is no relationship at home. There is no time. There's no real love. There's no energy. There's no connection. So actually, at the end of when the kids are grown up, there's been no value from that thing. And this dad was a mum, was just somebody who just wasn't present for us. And I see this a lot kind of tough. Now you talked about the challenges for people in this kind of information age, and they need to be doing this, and that, and actually very often that whole time. And so I think what's powerful about what you're saying is that only by one stopping and asking these questions can one begin to find that level and find space, even first of all within the madness of okay.
We're all in it, aren't we? We're all in the same madness. It's the same. It's a challenge. You know, it's not saying it's easy. But I remember an author called David White saying, "There's nothing worse for children than looking in their father's eyes and seeing they're just another thing that he's doing on his checklist of activities. You know, do the kids, go to work." We become like that, and really we look at that and go, "Is this what life's about?" Right. Whatever our family history, and most of us have difficult family histories. Some very, very difficult. We have to be the ones that go, enough, I'm not going to pass this on to my generation of kids. I didn't want to pass that on down the line. Now I've got grandkids now, and I look at them, and I've actually said to my daughter, take this book, put it away for them, when they're 20, give it to them. Because, you know, wouldn't you love to have had your grandfather ideas in a book? Wonderful. This is what I think about life.
This is wonderful. You know, I mean, I think the last chapter title that I want to just pick up on, because I'm really keen for also people to go out there and read the book and enjoy the book, because I mean I can't wait for a copy of this, because I'm just it's music to me. The chapter, the reinvention of work. Now what's interesting, you've talked about the cycle, you yourself went off, left the workplace, you'd experienced success in banking, working in the public sector and so on, and I think actually lots of people who are going to be reading this book are going to be public sector or charities or all that kind of stuff, or perhaps then banking, finance, you know, lofty kind of jobs and so on, and for some of them going on this journey. what strikes me is that you went off on this journey, and now as a coach, you know, it's interesting. There's the work that you do helping people find themselves through alternatives and so on. But as a coach, then you're working with individuals, you might be working with, or you're working with businesses or organisations. This bit about the reinvention of work, I get a feeling that this now you've kind of stepped back into the mantle with a new take of actually we can do this differently now. So you've kind of, from that thing that you had to kind of bail out, you're now ready and you're now back in there.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the reinvention of work, and does it feel like that? Does it feel like now you are, because for me there's clearly, it's not just a message for the individual here.
Yeah.
You're very clearly saying, actually, business, your organisation does not need to be run this way. There is a different way. If we're bold enough that we can reinvent how it is that we that we handle this whole thing, in particular with people, in order that they're able to find their right place and so on.
Well, firstly, if you do reinvent your work, it doesn't mean you stop being an accountant or a lawyer or whatever. You know, some people think, I actually love doing this. It's not about being a healer or a life coach, or that's not the point. It's actually finding yourself might mean that you become a better accountant, you become a better entrepreneur. That's fine. The reinvention of work is really giving a backdrop of the ages we're in. Most of us, I've come from a time when my parents grew up in the industrial age. They had all the values of conform, do as you're told, follow the rules, be a better cog in the wheel, and you'll get on. The virtual information age is not that. It's about innovation, creativity, cooperation, teamwork. It's all that. What I learned from my parents didn't fit. I had to relearn these values, and really, what I'm very loath to do is pass my values on to my kids, because their value set may change completely, because it's always changing very fast now. The problem we have is that a lot of corporations are run with industrial age mentalities. So command and control mentalities are still very much there. A lot of my friends are coaches, go into these places. The kind of corporations realise that we've got a problem, because the world's changing. We're still in the old mindset and we don't know how to shift. Shifting ourselves from the old mindset of industrial age to this new mindset, and the ones that are coming, like there's an age of intelligence and wisdom, Stephen Covey talks about it. It's evolving so fast that shifting our own mindset, it took me 5 years to shift my mindset out, even in alternatives, a bit from the industrial age way to the more online virtual age way.
So how do we do this then? Because, and picking up specifically on there, let's say somebody has been listening to this, they're a manager, they may even be running an organisation, and they've been struck by this. And they call someone like yourself in to do some work. They recognise there are some problems or challenges that people might even be from that old sense of somebody underperforming or what have you. The journey that you're talking about sounds potentially a little bit scary. Hang on a minute. Well, what is this journey on? Enlightenment, blah blah blah. Finding self. What's that about? How does that actually fit with the organisation? How do we? What's the challenge then, practically, in terms of that reinventing work? What do we need to be doing in order to make it achievable, mindful that organisations have got work to do and things to achieve? So if somebody was calling you in now to an organisation, heard this, Steve, but okay, how do you propose we actually go about this? Because I don't want to send everybody off to Buddhist retreats every 4 weeks and so on. I've still got this organisation to run.
Well, the book's aimed primarily at individuals, so an individual in an organisation has to ask themselves, can I grow, stretch? Is this organisation up for me and this journey I want to take? Some organisations are definitely up for it, and some are definitely not. So you have to really realistically look and go, I might want to be a public sector worker. I mean, where I worked was not up for the journey, not at all in any way.
I'm with you.
Some places are, and you can go and you can actually fit better and you stretch more. At an organisational level, really, if I was talking to a manager and I'd look at the structure and say, how is this place being managed? Where do you want to go? Where's your vision? And look at, is it really expansive and imaginative and visionary, or is it really like batten the hatches down and let's try and ride out the storm and all that? Because really, a lot of those kind of, with that mentality, the traditional wisdom is in times of recession, cut the workforce by 10%, cut that. I mean, that wisdom creates recession. Don't you think? I know there's one well-known consultancy that they have a template. That's what they do. They pay them a lot of money and they go in, cut that. And if everyone does that, slowly the economy winds down.
And especially if you don't do what you described, that even if things have been cut down and then you're having that expansive, okay, where are we now? what's the opportunity now? What's the challenge now? What's the story we need to tell to our staff now? How can we really be empowered given that this is a stretchy thing? And then sometimes people can rise up, but not if you then recessionary in both terms, isn't it? You're cutting and you're becoming more insular. Because sometimes when things, it can be an opportunity if we're bold enough to go on that journey, and I see that's why, you know, are the individuals up for that?
Yeah, and you wouldn't get companies like Google or Apple following that kind of wisdom. They're more innovative and visionary. And for an individual, what I'd say for an individual is, sometimes you have to take the journey. Life will pull you on the journey at the darkest moment. You know, I found I've gone on the journey twice in times of recession. My property went in negative equity, kids, ex-wife, you know, wife, and then eventually ex-wife. Show me the money. You know, Jerry Maguire, show me the money thing. So sometimes it doesn't happen that everything in the universe sets up, so everything's perfect for you to make the journey. You might have to take the jump at a time where it seems the highest.
I think that's really beautiful. Steve, it's been such a joy. I could talk to you all day. For people who wanted to find you and find out more about the book, what's the best website for people to track you down?
Well, www.stevenobel.com, that's nobel.com. And yeah, this book's out 13th of September.
Well, wonderful. And I don't recommend many things, but I recommend this very much. I think the work that you're doing is absolutely outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. I'm a huge fan of the work that you're doing individually through alternatives and through your work and through books like this. I'm really so much looking forward to it, and you know, I recommend this to anybody who's on that particular journey.
So you'll copy as soon as you get.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you. If you want to sit there and smile, I'm going to turn off the camera and what have you. Thank you.